As you know, this past Tuesday night, Virginia voters passed the Democrats' redistricting referendum by less than 3 points, even after dumping tens of millions of dollars into the election and dragging out Obama's corpse to champion it. The referendum barely passed, but it did. And what that now allows for is Governor Abigail Spanberger and her Democrat legislature to scrap Virginia's current congressional map, a mathematically near-perfect 6 Democrats to 5 Republicans, and replace it with a monstrosity that would produce a 10-to-1 Democrat advantage. Now, keep in mind, a 10-to-1 Democrat advantage in a state that voted for Kamala by just 5 points. A +5 Democrat state, handing the Democrats 10 out of 11 congressional seats on a map that the voters were never even allowed to see, all in the name of protecting democracy. And the Democrats were singing from the mountaintops. They thought they were on the doorstep of flipping the House majority before a single midterm vote was cast. The borderline illiterate Hakeem Jeffries was practically dancing. And then all of a sudden, it all came crashing down. A Tazewell County Circuit Court judge issued a final order blocking certification of the referendum results entirely, ruling that the referendum and the bill that created it were flatly unconstitutional. Not just technically flawed, not just procedurally messy, blatantly unconstitutional on multiple independent grounds. The court ruled that Democrats violated Virginia's own constitutional rules for amending the state constitution. So, bottom line, in order to amend Virginia's constitution, which this gerrymandering referendum does, the measure has to pass in 2 separate legislative sessions with an intervening election in between. So it would have to pass in a legislative session, say, in October. Then you have to have a statewide election in November. And then if voters still want to go with this, right, the measure would then have to pass another legislative session in, say, December or January. Obviously, the Democrats didn't do that. There was no passing of the measure before Spanberger was elected to office back in November. They just blatantly ran this through a single special session and rushed it to the ballot before any election could serve as a Democratic check on the process. That alone is enough to sink this illegal referendum. But the judge didn't stop there. The ruling also found that the ballot language itself, the actual question voters saw on their ballots, was, and I'm quoting the judge here directly, quote, flagrantly misleading. The question asked voters whether they wanted to restore fairness in upcoming elections. Restore fairness for a map that was going to produce a 10-to-1 Democrat advantage in a state where Democrats barely win? So the court found that ballot language did not accurately describe the amendment that was actually passed by the legislature, meaning voters were asked to approve something they were never honestly told about. In other words, they were lied to in writing on an official ballot. So bottom line, the court order has officially blocked state officials from certifying the results of the April 21st special election. And here's the key: permanently. This is not a pause. This is not a delay. This is a judicial kill shot pending appeal. And what's so hilariously ironic is that now it's the Democrats who are flipping out. Oh, I kid you not, they are flipping out over activist judges. That's what the white witch Spanberger is saying. She's saying Virginia voters have spoken and no activist judge should have veto power over the people's voice. Can you believe? I mean, this is beyond delicious. So, Ms. Spanberger, what do you think about voter ID in elections? 80% of the people want it, and yet... And again, note how tone-deaf she is. Virginia voters have spoken with flagrantly misleading ballot language about a map they were never allowed to see after a process that violated the state's own constitutional amendment rules. That's the people's vote they're defending? Former Virginia Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli, one of the sharpest legal minds in conservative circles, he weighed in and said that he thinks that the legal process is going to move at lightning speed here. He thinks we're looking at a final ruling probably in May. And his read is he thinks the courts, ultimately the Virginia Supreme Court, are going to strike this down.